Welcome back to our channel where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today we bring you some significant news. William and Princess Anne made a shocking confirmation over King Charles's health update that changed the monarchy forever. A royal employee of the royal family said that King Charles's health is deteriorating due to the stress from Harry's interview and the challenges associated with his cancer treatment. Numerous rumors are circulating on social media about the demise of King Charles. An informant said that Princess Anne and Prince William had confirmed a surprising detail about King Charles's position. Palace in crisis. Leaked confession and a change in power changed the monarchy as the Princess of Wales takes over as de facto leader. The British monarchy is facing its most fundamental crisis of the modern age as tragic new information about King Charles III's background, corroborated by Princess Anne and Prince William, has sent shockwaves through the institution. The king's very personal and unfiltered revelation has not only damaged his connection with his successor, but it has also sped up a subtle but huge transfer in power that has put Catherine, the Princess of Wales, at the heart of a new royal order. For months there have been rumors about King Charles's health and power. But what has come out today is not a leak. It's a reckoning. It has to do with Bloodline's treachery and a terrible honesty that has rattled the House of Windsor to its core. Princess Anne's statements, which have been heard around the world, made it clear that she understood how serious the issue was. She told a top advisor, "He's not the man we thought he was." Her calm, unwavering words made it clear that the time for concealing the truth was over. The consequence has placed Prince William, who will be king one day, in a lot of psychological difficulty as he questions the basic basis of his life and duty. Catherine has stepped in to fill the gap left by the king as his capacity to rule has decreased. Her authority grows every day thanks to the practical and forceful support of Princess Anne. This is the tale of how a private confession turned into a public crisis that changed the monarchy's trajectory and forced people to choose between tradition and survival. The future king's thoughts. Prince William went around Balmoral, his footsteps echoing down the same paths he had run on as a youngster during what seemed like never-ending summer vacations. But on this day, he walked across the familiar terrain like a stranger, coming back to a dream he had forgotten. The reporters who had gathered outside the estate's gates could see that the prince was acting differently. He seemed to be having trouble with ideas that wouldn't go away. An insider inside the palace said, "Sometimes the hardest battles are fought within ourselves as they watched from afar." Recent news that shook the fundamental core of all he believed he knew set off an internal fight. Earlier that week, William had told a close friend, "The crown carries the weight of truth." Behind his remarks was a mind divided between a lifetime of obligation and a fresh, painful need to be real. From the time he was born, everything about his title and destiny had been planned out for him. But now he had to ask himself the hardest question any future king could ask. Did he really desire the life that had been selected for him? Every new piece of information that came to light showed additional flaws in the carefully crafted story of his childhood, his family life, and even his marriage. He started to see that the royal family's quest for survival above all else had influenced everything. He is said to have written in his secret diary, "Survival and purpose are two very different things." William began to wonder about things he had formerly believed without question. He wasn't simply thinking about what his royal position meant for the kingdom anymore. He was also thinking about what type of guy, husband, and parent he wanted to be, no matter what his title was. Would he keep doing things the old-fashioned way by keeping up appearances and putting up with whatever came his way? Or will he make new ground by becoming the first king in decades to govern with radical honesty? People across the country appeared to feel this change. People had always considered him as the dependable one, the one who would keep things together following the awful death of his mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. He was the son who never got into trouble. But suddenly a new future was forming, one that was based on human ideals instead of what institutions expected. William was heard adding, "It's not just about what I've inherited. It's about what I want to be." The letter that changed everything. It was supposed to be a normal evening until the crisis started. An unlabeled envelope came at Adelaide Cottage on February 26, 2025, around 10:45 p.m. A messenger in simple clothing brought it, and he didn't have any royal emblems or palace identification on him. The only thing that stood out was the scribbled sentence on the front, "My final confession." A palace worker would later observe, "Sometimes the simplest gifts are the most important." The prince didn't open the mail right away. Instead, he put it on his desk and looked at it for what sources claim was many hours. When he finally opened it, the first sentence stole his breath away. "William, you need to comprehend. I had no option." The letter sounded like his father, raw, full of remorse, and entirely honest. It was the voice of a guy who was finally ready to deal with the past. William knew that this letter would alter everything from the first phrase. The following morning, palace servants were told not what the letter said, but how William felt about it. People who saw him said he was in a state of great shock and was quite upset by what he had discovered. King Charles had broken all the rules and spoken directly to his son, which caused havoc in the palace. Diana was mentioned in almost every paragraph of William's father's admissions. Charles had written in one margin, "The ghosts of our past have a way of making us tell their stories." Everything that had been kept quiet in royal circles concerning Diana's memory was finally spoken in heartbreaking, honest detail. Charles wasn't just acknowledging that his marriage had collapsed. He was also admitting that he had betrayed motherhood and a reality that had hurt everyone involved. He said that when Diana died, he gave in to pressure from the institution and chose to preserve the crown instead of his conscience. "I didn't keep her safe. I protected the image of a monarchy that was already falling apart," Charles wrote. The letter said that palace officials had told him to show strength and unity in the days and weeks following Diana's burial, and to stay away while the people grieved. He had stuck to their script and acted cold and unfeeling. But he told William that he was falling apart on the inside. Charles said, "I asked them to let me honor her name in public. They said no. Every time." Then William learned something that surprised him even more. His father told him that Camilla was not only a love affair after Diana, but also a strategic necessity for the monarchy's existence. Charles stated, "It was impossible to separate love and duty. The institution needed stability, and Camilla was eager to provide it to them." He said their marriage was part emotional shelter and half a well-planned way to stay alive. Charles's tone only became softer as he wrote about Diana as a mom. He wrote, "She loved you and Harry more than anything else." The palace never understood that a mother's love could be louder and stronger than any rules. If the confession had stopped there, it may have seemed like a father's way of making peace. But Charles kept going. Then came a single, strange statement that altered everything for his kid. "The truth about bloodlines is more complicated than what you were told. This has nothing to do with sentiments or sorrow. This was about who you are." The statement, which was buried halfway down the page, brought up old terrible stories that had never really died down. It was a phrase that made William face the worst issue of his life. What if all he thought he was a lie? The bloodline's secret. The sentence. The bloodline was never in question, but it was never simple either. Sat on the page like a monument to bewilderment. There was no further explanation. It was a ghost in ink that wouldn't say what it meant. Some truths are more dangerous when they are hidden than when they are revealed. Princess Catherine would later tell a close aide. Reading such lines made Prince William feel unstable. Was his father hinting at the long-dead rumors that he was the father, or was he alluding to something else, something that had been kept secret for years? It was scarier because there was no background. The royal family reacted quickly. Senior staff members at Clarence House were called to emergency meetings, but they weren't allowed to read the whole letter. A legal expert who worked for the palace said, "When it comes to royal secrets, knowledge can be more dangerous than ignorance." Legal teams looked over the wording and voiced immediate concerns, but no one was brave enough to go to the king personally. Since he was diagnosed with cancer in February 2024, his health has been worse. Therefore, the main goal was to avoid adding further stress. A top assistant told a colleague, "Sometimes silence is the only choice when all the other options are worse." William was heartbroken. Sources close to the prince reported that he spent a lot of time alone strolling about the Windsor estate, canceling booked engagements and breaking the strict rules that regulated his life. A family acquaintance said, "It wasn't about losing the throne that bothered him. It was about him losing touch with the truth of who he really was. When your base falls apart, everything you've constructed on it begins to collapse too." He started to doubt everything, including his father's honesty, his own recollections of boyhood, and even who he was. Catherine, who had always been there for him, couldn't get in touch with him. He wasn't angry. He was just very shocked, as if he had been hollowed out. What happened next was not an explosion, but a rare moment of emotional retreat. Prince William the man had gotten beyond Prince William the heir's armor. His presence at a banquet for a military organization was suddenly called off. The Foreign Office had to change the date of a very important meeting twice. People who worked at the palace said that he was there in body, but not in spirit. During this time, Charles started to look for help from others outside the royal family, including therapists, journalists, and even a former royal security officer who had worked for both of his parents. He wasn't seeking solutions. He was looking for a means to deal with the reality no matter what it was. The Princess Royal's help and the Queen's vision. A well-known powerful figure entered into this emotional disaster. There was no notice or royal ceremony when Princess Anne came to Clarence House on March 7, 2025. She arrived as a sister and a realist. There were just 3 persons in the drawing room. King Charles sat near a window and looked weak and older than he was. Prince William stood next to him with a stiff back. There were unsaid whispers in the air. Anne stood in front of them with a tiny folder. "He knows now," she whispered to Charles in a quiet but forceful voice. "And you were right to tell him." Charles only nodded, seeming sorry. "I had to," he said softly. Anne's job wasn't merely to mediate. She had come to provide something else. She took another envelope out of her coat pocket and gave it to William. "This is from her," she said. "The writing was done by Queen Elizabeth II in the months leading up to her death in 2022. The note was for Catherine, not William. Anne said, "Your grandmother wrote this after a lot of long talks." She looked at Catherine from a distance and noticed that she was steady. She told them to only deliver this when the moment was perfect. William delivered Catherine the letter in private later that afternoon. The words were simple, yet they were the last word from a king. The Queen had written, "You know the people better than any of us ever could. You don't do well. You connect." It wasn't praise. It was giving someone else moral power. Charles's response to the letter was quite strong. "It's still my crown," he yelled at an assistant. "And I'm not gone yet," he said, feeling intimidated. He had waited his whole life only to witness another person emerge while his own authority eroded. The Queen's letter didn't modify any regulations about who should be next in line, but it did provide something more powerful proof. Anne assured William that she had trusted Catherine all the way to the end. She had seen how Catherine spoke to kids, how she stayed calm throughout scandals, and how she was always there for William without taking the spotlight away from him. As Charles became weaker and William looked for guidance, Catherine was the one who stood strong. The monarchy wasn't going ahead with proclamations. It was moving forward with quiet, strong deeds, and the assent of a leader who never wanted to be in the limelight. Catherine's rise in the new guard. From March to May 2025, the Princess of Wales started to take up a lot more space than her title implied. Her schedule changed. Now she went to tiny charity events and high-level policy conferences at the same time. At a Commonwealth conference in Edinburgh, Elizabeth sat 2 seats away from the Lord Chamberlain, not next to William. This was a small but important indicator of her new status. Her public image changed, too. Her clothes changed from flowery skirts and delicate brooches to crisp, structured suits in bright hues. A fashion expert for The Telegraph said, "It wasn't just a new style. It showed a new way of thinking, focused and ready to work." This shift was seen in public opinion surveys. A YouGov poll from May 2025 showed that Catherine had the greatest public trust rating of any royal at 82%, beating Prince William and the King. The press called it the new firm effect, which was a public interest in her calm competence and steady empathy. A longtime royal observer noted, "She never asked for the attention, but she earned it by being real." Even King Charles, who had become less and less involved because of his health, saw the change. An assistant wrote in a memo that was only seen by his staff, "He knows she's the heart of it now, and it hurts him." Catherine never said she was in charge. But when other sections of the organization started to fall apart, she became the glue that held it all together. This was quite clear when the family's problems became public. In June, it came out that King Charles and Prince Harry had a second secret encounter that William didn't know about. One tabloid shrieked, "Windsor rift deepens," and the headlines were harsh. Charles gets one son, loses the other. William was said to be quite offended not by the encounter itself, but by the fact that it was kept secret. He is believed to have told advisors, so it's peace for one and silence for the other. The situation became worse when Prince Andrew showed up unexpectedly at a royal engagement and trooping the color when the lack of unity was clear. William no longer trusted his father. It was a turning moment for Catherine. An advisor said, "The crown is supposed to keep the family in check." Now she is the one who keeps the crown in balance. A split in the monarchy. As summer went on, the fissures in the institutions became more. A bundle of letters from the late Queen Elizabeth II that William had never seen before was found during a regular inspection of the archives. They warned about the dangers of lying and splitting up the family. They said Catherine and Harry by name. After reading them, William added softly, "She saw it all coming." The revelation happened at the same time that the king pulled back even further from public life. One staff member said, "He's letting go without saying it, like he's already stepped back." Catherine's position grew much more in his absence. She spoke with New Zealand's education officials, talked for 3 hours with child health experts, and led discussions with Commonwealth ambassadors. "She doesn't slow down," her scheduler said. "She keeps going even when she's tired." The pressure grew when a royal photographer unintentionally released a picture from the 1990s that no one had seen before. It depicted Diana in the grounds of Highgrove with a folder full of notes on her charitable work. Catherine's name was scribbled in red ink in the margin. The message that came with it said, "Protect her or lose her too." The picture was taken off swiftly, but not before it went viral, making many think of Catherine as Diana's spiritual successor. There was some internal conflict throughout this ascension. At a private lunch, one royal relative was heard saying, "It's all about her now." Senior courtiers were worried. "She didn't ask for this," one person remarked. "But now she is the center, and that comes with its own risks." William, on the other hand, became her strongest supporter. He canceled solo engagements and turned down press interviews so he could be with her. He was desperate to protect her from the stress that had destroyed his mother. An aide said, "He's watching over her now. He's not letting anyone bring her down." An alternative model of leadership at work. By the end of July 2025, the workers at the palace were in a state of disarray. A number of high-ranking advisors to King Charles were abruptly terminated from their positions. An individual who works in security said the orders came from higher up. It wasn't Charles. After someone unlocked a locked cabinet in the archive wing which contained sensitive information from the 1980s about the dissolution of Charles and Diana's marriage, individuals were terminated from their positions. Individuality and the confidence of the people were now the distinguishing characteristics of the monarchy, which had previously been held together by history and obligation. It was not because Catherine wore a crown that she was in command, rather she was in charge because other individuals had departed or split up at that point. When she was present at royal meetings, people began to chant her name. There were a great number of comments of encouragement posted on social media. From the perspective of a royal journalist on the BBC, people see her as the anchor now. They see William with her, but they pay more attention to her. Midway through the month of July, a private event held at Sandringham featured the new reality program in its entirety. There was no sign of King Charles. Not even Harry the Prince went with them. However, Catherine arrived early and proceeded to go about the grounds engaging in conversation with each member of the crew. A gardener who worked for the royal family said, "She is already the center even if no one says it out loud." An important historical turning point has occurred in the House of Windsor. Due to the fact that he is ill and must deal with his own confessions, the ruler is more of a moniker than he is a true ruler. Prince William the heir is now embarking on a profound journey of self-discovery as he strives to reconcile the man he is with the monarch he must become. The Princess of Wales. Catherine is serving as the focal point of everything. She is a graceful woman who has come to exemplify power without consciously seeking it. Not because she was born into the institution, but rather because she is capable, consistent, and has a quiet strength that has earned her the trust of the whole nation. She is the one who is holding the institution together. At this point, the question is not exactly who will wear the crown, but rather how they will wear it. At this point, it seems that Catherine has already provided the response. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.